Good afternoon. Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for February 14th, 2017 is now called to order. I will have right now roll call by the secretary.
Kevin Brown,
Present.
Chester Jones,
Present.
Jamelba Johnson, William Cook,
Present.
Renzo Williams. We have 3 present and 2 absent.
With 3 present, 2 absent, we do have a quorum. We will move on with the order of the agenda. First order of business was election of officers, and I will turn the election over to Ms. Hurt for conducting the election.
Good afternoon, everyone. At this particular time, the floor is now open for nominations for president of the BZA board.
Ms. Hurt, I'd like to nominate Kevin Brown as president.
Are there any other nominations? Nomination is now closed. Can I have a motion?
You want to second it? Second it.
I'll second.
Okay.
Now, what you need, Ms.
We need a motion that Kevin Brown be voted as the president of the BZA. He's the only nominee.
I move that Kevin Brown be nominated president of the BZA.
I do a second.
It has been motioned by Mr. Jones and properly seconded by Mr. Cook that Mr. Brown be the nominee and the president of the BZA. We're going to take a vote. Kevin Brown,
Yes.
Chester Jones,
Yes.
William Cook.
Yes.
The vote is 3-0 for Kevin Brown to be president of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Mr. Brown, would you like to come take your chair and continue with the rest of the election?
Thank you, Ms. Hurt. The next order of business will elect vice president for the Board of Zoning Appeals. Can we get a nomination for vice president?
Mr. Chair, I nominate Mr. Bill Cook as our vice president for the BZA.
Ms. Britton nominate. I second that motion. Are there any more nominations? If not, the nomination is closed. We'll call for a roll call for a vote.
Kevin Brown,
Yes.
Chester Jones,
Yes.
William Cook.
Yes.
The vote is 3-0.
With 3-0, William Cook will be the vice president of the Board of Zoning Appeals for 2017. I think that's the end of the elections, Ms. Hurt.
Yes, it is.
That closes our elections. We can now further move on with our agenda. The second order of business is approval of January 10th minutes for January 10th, 2017. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Been moved properly second that we approve the minutes for January 10th, 2017. If there's no further discussion, roll call. Ms. Hurt.
Motion.
Motion?
Oh, we had a motion, I'm sorry. Roll call, Kevin Brown,
Yes.
Chester Jones,
Yes.
William Cook.
Yes.
The vote is 3-0 for approval.
With 3 approval, the minutes for January 10th, 2017 has been approved. Third order of business is the public hearing. We now go to the public hearing portion of the meeting. First order of business, BZA 1702, Prince Ward Bay of Gary, Indiana, is petitioning for a special use permit at 261 Roosevelt Street, Gary, Indiana, to establish a daycare. Our representatives of Prince Bay Ward here. Yes, ma'am. Please come to the mic, state your name and address for the record, and give us an overview of your petition.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Princess Ward Bay. My current address is 600 Washington Street, Gary, Indiana. I'm here today to petition to open up a home daycare in the city of Gary. The reason that I wanted to open up a home daycare is to provide quality care for single moms and to also give back to the community and just be an asset to the toddlers and babies that I will be coming in contact with. And I just want an opportunity to try to start a business and to prosper and maybe open up some more businesses. So, any other questions or what?
All the questions up to the floor, Commissioner.
Mrs. Bay, Ward Bay rather, how
Yes.
many clients do you propose to serve?
Right now, my daycare is small, so I just want to have at least about 7. I'm going to be open for 2 shifts, so at least maybe 5 to 7 each shift. That's it.
Okay, are you operating this alone, or do you have help?
No, I'm going to hire my friend. She's going to work with me.
And what ages are you proposing to provide services for?
I'm going to have 6 months to 12 years, 12-year-olds.
Will there be any overnight daycare provided?
No, it's not going to be an overnight, but I do want to be accessible to the parents that don't just work 9 to 5. So I was going to stay open to 12 midnight to help those parents that work that odd shift, like a 3 to 11 or 2 to 10.
Okay. You say you live at 6th Avenue and...
No.
Yeah, I live at 600 Washington, but the daycare is going to possibly be at 261 Roosevelt Street.
Who is the owner of that particular site?
Paula Mallet.
Okay. Do we have the information relative to her having approved this?
Yes, we do have a letter that has been notarized and signed by the owner of the property, giving her the authority to have a daycare center at that location.
Okay. All right. Ms. Bay,
Yes.
have you any idea how many other daycares in the area?
You know what? I did go around. I seen a few. I want to say, I know it's one. It's in the area, but not like in that specific area. My son used to go to it. It's Horseman Daycare. That's like on 6th and McKinley. So it is daycares in the area. I want to say maybe 5 or so.
Okay. What expertise do you bring to your business that would say that you are qualified and capable of running this
Okay.
particular
The
type
expertise?
of endeavor?
Excuse me, the expertise that I bring, I am currently an LPN. One aspect that I would focus on is the safety. That's because that's all I know is the safety and the well-being of these children. I will bring professionalism, I will bring dependability, and accountable for any of my actions that would go on at my business. I would say that I'm qualified because I currently do home health care, and I currently specialize in caring for the medically fragile children. I have a 2-year-old that I take care of now. I take care of 8-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 5-year-olds, all the above. So I think that I will be qualified to take care of infants and children that's not ill.
Okay. Has your facility been given the green light by the city of Gary in terms of what amenities are required?
That's that I was told that I had to go through this process as far as getting zoned and everything, so I'm just trying to follow the steps to get approved.
All right. And what about parking?
Parking, it's a garage, so that's where myself and my employer park. It's set up in front of the house. I will have like a 5-minute or 10-minute policy for my parents to drop their kids off. We don't have a driveway, but it is a residential street for parking for them to be safe.
Okay. I think there are parking requirements, but I'll let staff expound on that just in case, so that we can
Okay.
be specific about that. That ends my question.
Any further questions? You say you do have all your licenses from the state and the county and the city to operate this? You have acquired those licenses? You are licensed to operate this daycare center?
They told me I had to get my business license first. So
Okay.
once I get my business license, then I can contact the state and they can come out and do everything else.
Okay, all right. If there are no further questions right now, Ms. Ward Bay, you can have a seat, and we're going to open up the questions to the floor, all right?
Okay, thank you.
At this time, is there anybody here to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone here to speak in favor of this petition, 1702? Once again, anyone here to speak in favor of this petition, BZA 1702? Seeing none, hearing none, is there anyone here to speak opposed to BZA 1702? Opposed to BZA 1702? Once again, is there anyone here opposed to BZA 02? Seeing none, hearing none, we will go to staff's recommendation. Did we hear from the residents? Are they okay?
We mailed out 15 flyers to the residents in a 300 feet radius of the property. 4 were returned for lack of service, no address unfounded, attempted not known, and we had 1 that came back opposed. The other ones are no response, no returns, no anything. I did understand you to say that you would like to be opened up to midnight. Okay. If you choose those hours, it is required that you have security cameras around and about your premises, and they must be working 24/7. Okay. You'll be able to come back to the podium in a minute. As far as the parking is concerned, we do require that you have a safe drop-off point for the children. That's what we prefer, and that's what is required. So even though you did say that they're going to be parked along the curb, I'm assuming you're saying in front of your house, is the driveway where the garage, is that accessible? Is it where you can park on the street and the children or the parents can drive, pull up in the driveway, and take the children into your home, into the center?
The way that is made, the driveway.
Could you come back to the mic, please?
The way that it is made, the driveway in the back of the alley, I wouldn't say that I wouldn't want them to drive to the back because it's like a driveway. It's just, you can just drive into the garage area. I mean, I wouldn't want them to have to get out the garage and come through, but they can do that, but I wasn't thinking as in that being.
Do they necessarily have to go through the garage? Is there a way that they can pull up in the driveway without going through the garage, get out, and just come down the side of the garage and be able to go through the back?
They can park, and it is an opening to the, from our gate to, that would be accessible. If we had to go that route, it would be.
Okay, because our main concern is the safety of the children.
Of course.
And even though it's a residential area, people do drive kind of recklessly.
Yeah, I
And
totally
we wouldn't want
agree.
anyone to get hurt. So if that could be made and be done that way, then that would be okay.
Okay.
Okay?
Oh, and I just have one more thing to say. I did get a chance to walk the neighborhood and speak with the residents in the community, and the majority of them, some of them weren't home, but the majority that I spoke with, they told me that they did receive the letters from you guys, and that most of them did not have any bad thing to say to oppose it. I wasn't able to get them to write anything, I should have, but I did speak to the residents on that block.
Okay. And as far as the rest of the process for the daycare center, the state has requirements, and once she is approved or whatever the decision is made by the city, then the state will go and do the rest and have the fire department come in and do their inspections, and they will also do theirs. That's not done until we do what we need to do as far as approving that the zoning is proper.
Okay.
And we do recommend approval.
That was my concern.
Staff recommends approval.
Yes. Providing she gets another way for the people to park. Okay?
I'll make Ms. Warbay come back to the podium as we make our decision here. Staff recommendation is to approve BZA 1702. Can I get a motion to that effect?
So moved, Mr. Chair. Pending any caveats called for by staff and/or city as well as the state.
All right, motion on the floor is to approve BZA 1702 with pending any requirements that the petitioner must meet. If there no further discussion, we can have a roll call.
Kevin Brown,
Yes.
Chester Jones,
Yes.
William Cook.
Yes.
The vote is 3-0 for approval.
Ms. Warbay, you have been approved by the BZA. Does she have to go before the council also?
Yes, she does.
You will also have to go before the Gary City Council for final approval. Good luck in your process. Hope everything works out for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next order of business, BZA 1703, the Man Cave Nightclub LLC, and Don Schultz, sole member of Northbrook, Illinois, petitioning for special use permit at 3201 East Dune Highway, Gary, Indiana, to establish an adult cabaret. Representatives here for Man Club. State your name for the record and your address.
My name is Eric Neff. I'm an attorney in Crown Point, Indiana. My business address is 1186 East Summit Street, Crown Point, Indiana. And I'm here today on behalf of Man Cave and Don Schultz who is the sole member of Man Cave Nightclub LLC.
All right. Give us an overview of the petition, sir.
I'd be glad to. In your packet, if you would go to the drawings, there's the floor plan in the back, as well as the build site plan in the pack of your materials. And essentially what this is that Don had purchased through the Man Cave Nightclub LLC the property located at 3201 East Dunes Highway in Gary, Indiana. And when he purchased it, he knew that it was zoned M1, and he has spent about $50,000 to $60,000 since purchasing the property, even before he purchased it, in remodeling the building. Now, the building had been formerly known as Pandora's. What's important to note is when you look at those drawings, to the north are railroad tracks. To the east of the property is NIPSCO and a pumping station. To the west of the property is an abandoned shell of a hotel. And then to the south, across the street, is a NIPSCO substation. For many years, this building had been known as Pandora's. He'd filed a special use permit because of your M1 zoning classification for an adult cabaret. It has to be done by special use permit and meet the 7 criteria that are set forth in the petition as well as your city ordinances. And if we would take a look at those are found on page 1. He intends to do a well-managed and well-operated adult cabaret nightclub. There's already existing uses not too far from there for the same type of thing, and he thinks he can make a go of it with respect to the way that his management skills and how he intends to run it. Number 2, all of the entertainment activities will take place inside the building and on the property and will not affect any of the adjoining uses that are nearby. If you notice on the drawings, there's already an entrance and an exit curb cut there, so there's no modifications to the traffic that would have to be made. In addition, he has placed on site security cameras, and he's going to have additional security if he is approved. Right now, I think there's 9 to 10 cameras. He plans to have 16 that will canvass the entire parking lot area, as well as the outside or the inside of the building. Number 3, the property's already been improved. It's in an industrial zoned area. Again, I reiterate, the railroad tracks are to the north, the highway is to the south, and its proposed use will have no effect on the development of other industrial uses in that vicinity, because that is the key. That is zoned M1. Property has city access, a road behind the building, and it also already has the 2 entrance and exits into the property with access to Dunes Highway. There's adequate utilities as it is served by NIPSCO, Indiana Water, City Sewer, and again, the 2 entrances. The zoning code, your own ordinances, allow and authorizes adult entertainment uses in industrial areas by special use permit. And he is going to be following the laws in acquiring the special use permit as well as the adult cabaret. So I do believe that everything has been submitted in your packet, and I do believe that it meets the 7 criteria that this board is to look at, and we are seeking approval from the BZA for this nightclub.
All right, thank you, sir. I'll open up the question to the board members of the representative for the Man Club. Yes, sir, please stay at the podium.
I'm sorry.
Your name again is?
Eric Neff.
Spell your last name for me.
N-E-F-F.
Okay, Attorney Neff. Will the club have nude dancing in it?
As defined, it's an adult cabaret, so whatever the adult cabaret ordinances allow, that is what's going to take place there.
Do you know what's in the adult cabaret
It's
allowances?
regulated by your ordinances.
Okay.
So whatever that allows, that's exactly what they're going to do within the adult cabaret definition of your city ordinances.
So I suppose my next question, you would refer to that as well, and that is, will dancers provide a lap dance?
Well, again, I think all that's regulated. There's certain, and I don't have that ordinance committed to memory, but there's certain distances that they are to maintain and that sort of thing that are regulated by your ordinance. And again, that's the intent of the ordinance, is to follow the law and go along with whatever the adult cabaret business license, if this is approved by the BZA, permits, that's what they will do. They're not going to break the law, and they're not going to commit any things that are against the law. It's basically whatever your ordinance allows will take place at that facility. Nothing more, nothing less.
Those are two questions that I would have to know before I think I could make a decision that is one based on fact and/or
That's based on your ordinance.
I know I'm going to have to look into that and see what, in fact, they do provide and allow for. Those are my questions.
Pastor Jones, you have a question?
Yes. The expensive sounded ignorance. Adult cabaret sounds nice to me, but is that sort of like a strip club, lap dances, hookups, whatever, that go on in that kind of club? It's out of my field, but I want to know exactly what it is.
Again, they have applied for 2 licenses. They've applied for the sexually oriented license by your city ordinance. And it's their intent to comply with the laws of that city ordinance. They're not there to run any illegal activities. It's strictly legal by your city ordinance. It's permitted. Whatever's permitted in that ordinance, they intend to do.
Okay. Second question. I live in Miller. I have a house in Miller. What's going to be the hours of operation?
Again, I think that's regulated by your ordinances, and it depends on whether there's liquor there and what kind of activities, but as I understand it, there's certain activities that are cut off at 11 and others at 2:30. Whatever the law regarding the hours of operation for an adult cabaret, men's nightclub or nightclub, is what they intend to operate.
That's this next one. I see you have a game room.
Yes.
What is a game room? What purpose does it
I
serve?
would assume it's video games.
Can you tell me with a degree of certainty, because we all know the acronym assuming.
Of what?
Can you tell me specifically what will happen in that room?
I'm assuming they're like video games like you would have at a bowling alley.
Can we
or
find out with a degree of certainty, whereas you don't have to assume?
Okay. Don, could you answer that question? What? Yeah. There's video games in there now. They're not juicy video games, or, okay.
Will any dancing occur in that game room?
Will dancing occur in that? Don, you want to come up for a minute instead of us talking back and forth? Question was, would dancing occur in the game? No.
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 Sir, state your name for the, name that for the record.
Schultz.
So you will be the proprietor of this? Because, well, you should have been at the mic also from the beginning, so, okay. As we look at this, there's a lot of unanswered questions about this, so I'm going to go ahead and proceed with the proceeding as it is. Any further questions from the board? All right, we're going to, you can have a seat. We're going to open this up to the floor, the public, and get their opinions on this. Go ahead, Mayor.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I wanted to speak before you took comments for or against, because I'm here to provide information. And in providing information, I wanted to give you a vision for the area. Over the last 4 years, we have worked with units of the federal, state, and local government to create what we refer to as the North Side Plan. And that North Side Plan encompasses neighborhoods in Horace Mann, Ambridge, Emerson, Adna, Glen Ryan, and the Lakefront. And in each of those areas, there is a distinct vision. And in fact, for the area that starts where 65 ends, that has been referred to as the Lakefront District. Most of our demolition has been focused along the north side area, at least during our first round of hardest hit. So we focused heavily in Atna, we focused heavily in Glen Ryan, we focused heavily in the Emerson area. Over the next year, we are going to extend that focus also to the Miller Lakefront District. And this is all a part of the planning as it relates to the Lakefront District. About 3 weeks ago, the city was awarded $4.5 million to develop transit-oriented development along the Lake Street corridor. This is meant to accompany what we have seen as a burgeoning development from Lake Street and Melton Road all the way north to the lakefront. And in fact, we are looking to develop additional businesses along that area, in addition to those businesses that have already established themselves. In each of the distinct areas around the Lakefront District, for instance, over to the west is viewed as an industrial area, or to the east, where Superior Trust has recently located, where Kaplan Trucking expanded, where Truck Life expanded. That's all part of our industrial district. And along Lake Street, between Clay Street and Lake Street, is seen as retail and new housing to be developed. There is a clear plan. And so I don't want it to be seen that, or be thought that because Attorney Neff has represented that there are only railroad tracks and there's a abandoned hotel and there are things that may not be attractive right now, that does not mean that there is not a plan. And in fact, the best evidence I have for that is the fact that about 4 years ago, if you looked right on the corner of 5th and Broadway, and if you looked north and if you looked south, if you looked east and if you looked west, it looked totally different. You had abandoned buildings between 504 and 578. You had the Sheraton Hotel that was casting a shadow over City Hall. You had a closed old Boys and Girls Club that was not being utilized. And you had all of the blight that accompanied those things. Right now, if you start at 5th and Jefferson and go east, if you start at 5th and Broadway and go north or go south, that area looks totally different. The 504 building has been revitalized. You now see Centier Bank. They weren't there before, with a drive-through. There's a parking lot for our seniors at 578 Broadway. Where once an abandoned building stood, there's a mural of the Jacksons. And recently, we celebrated a $1 million investment from Bloomberg Philanthropies on Art House, a culinary kitchen, which will allow us to incubate restaurants in the city of Gary. And so I say that to let you know that when you plan and when you take the time to plan, then things do happen. The area that is referenced in this petition, there's a plan underway. And what I can say to you is that as I have reviewed the plans, as I have participated in the plans, an adult cabaret or a strip club or anything else you want to call it was not a part of that plan. But I'm just giving you information because I don't want to say one way or the other. I just can give information legally. Mm-hmm. You know, I represented a lot of folks in my day as an attorney. And some of the issues were hard. But whenever I came before a body like this, I had the respect to give you a straight answer. I didn't refer folks back to the ordinance or to the code. If people were going to give lap dances, I would have told you that. If people were going to be dancing naked, I would have told you that. Because you deserve the right to have the specific information so that you can make an informed decision. We welcome businesses in this community. We welcome investment in this community. But for the life of me, I am perplexed every day because I don't understand what it takes to get an Applebee's or a TGI Fridays or even a Red Lobster as opposed to an adult cabaret. I don't know what that looks like, but I will tell you that I'm working towards the former, and we'll continue to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. We will continue now with the floor. Anyone here to speak in favor of BZA 1703, please take the mic. Anyone here in favor of BZA 1703, please take the mic. Once again, anyone in favor of BZA 1703, please take the mic. Seeing none, hearing none, anyone opposed to BZA 1703, please come to the mic, state your name and address for the record. Anyone opposed to BZA 1703, come to the mic, state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Board members, my name is Jim Dowacki. I live in the 2nd District. And I want to do more than just give you information, but I'll start with some information. Number one, petitioner has a legal right to petition for this special use. And contrary to some of the comments that the mayor had made, there had been plans for that corridor. And among the plans were that they were going to allow adult entertainment in that corridor. And for years, adult entertainment flourished there. I mean, that's your ordinance. I would have liked to have heard the mayor say, we're going to change those ordinances to prohibit more adult entertainment in that corridor. But that's really not what she said. She talked about all of the government paid for programs, all the phony businesses that have been located in the city recently. But I'll tell you what I feel about it. I think it's wrong to locate all of those adult businesses here in Gary. And I think it's your responsibility, and I think it's the responsibility of the council, and I think it's the responsibility of the mayor to change the rules so that this petitioner is not fooled into thinking that he's going to be able to locate that business, because he won't. I can promise you that he won't open that business there. But the problem that I see is that we've got this ordinance on the books. Most viable communities don't have that ordinance on the books. In other words, most communities that thrive, most communities with Red Lobsters and Bennigan's and all the rest of that stuff, they don't have these ordinances on the books. But in Gary, we do. And so there's no question about why he wants to locate in Gary, because he can't locate in other places. But the problem is not that he wants to continue a adult cabaret that we've got 5 or 6 of them in Miller. 5 or 6 of them. The problem is you have allowed it. The problem is the mayor and her predecessors have allowed it. The problem is that the city council has allowed it. So I'm hoping that you're going to vote it down, not because there's a plan for the city. You should vote it down because it's wrong to locate it in that area, that we've got enough of them. People don't want to see it. The residents who live there don't want to see it. And that's a good reason. You've got the ability to vote it down for that reason. And then when it comes before the city council, we should have the right to demand that the city council change the rules, change the ordinance. Because I would like to see all of the adult businesses moved out, or when they close, not be allowed to reopen. And then we won't have this farcical performance of the mayor talking about her phony development plans. The reason you should vote it down is because it's wrong. Let him find let him go to Northbrook and locate it there. He won't be able to. So I'm telling you that it's not because there's some plan for the city. You should vote it down because the community doesn't want it, and it's wrong for the city. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else opposed to BZA 1703? Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Bill Goldsby. I live at 8545 Lakewood Avenue in Miller, 1st District. I have a dream. I'm a 3rd-generation Garyite. My father was born here, grandfather here. I know many of you. I have a dream that one day Gary will have a rebirth. It will come again a great city as it once was. And it can't be a great city if we're going to keep allowing trash to come in. Let it stay out. If he wants it in Northbrook, let Northbrook have it, and have him too. Gary has been a great city at one time, and it will be a great city again. We must keep this out of our city. Thank you.
Anyone else opposed to 1703?
I'm Thomas Eaton. I live at 8540 Oak Avenue in Gary. And we have been speaking in opposition to adult entertainment places for a generation, and in some cases have been successful in keeping them out, and in other cases not. But we have felt every time, as Mr. Nowacki has expressed, that these businesses are undesirable in themselves. We have also been very concerned that the legally permissible activities very quickly turned to illegal and impermissible activities once the place has opened and is operating. And as we have heard both from Nowacki and from the mayor, the existence of this kind of business at the strategic point that we're talking about, which is the main entrance to the Etna, Glen Ryan, Miller neighborhood, gives the whole area a bad feel for people coming in who otherwise would be at least neutral about whether it was a desirable place to stop and shop and eat and do business. In addition to that, the overwhelming majority of the people in the whole area that we're talking about are opposed to this kind of business and would like to see all of them disappear, including this one. So it is our hope that the BZA will take advantage of the law and reject the proposal which is being offered by the promoters of the adult entertainment location. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? State your name and address for the record.
Susan Rutson, 1130 North Vigo Street in Gary, Indiana. I oppose this operation as well. My first problem is that it is at the front of our neighborhood. It's the first thing you see. But secondly, on the city's website, there are several pages about sexually oriented businesses, and there are 23 sections of the effects of sexually oriented businesses and how they have affected everybody from Baltimore, Minneapolis, Indianapolis, Bellevue, Washington. All these major cities have written about the secondary effects of these type of businesses. And of these 23 effects, the worst are, of course, communicable diseases and prostitution and illicit drugs, trafficking. So what's there not to like about this? So I hope you do vote no. Thank you.
Anybody else? State your name and address for the record, please.
George Rogie, 1135 North Union, and I'm speaking as the president of the Miller Business Association. I'm going to refer to the business owner of the man cave as Gordon, because Gordon came to the Miller Business Association board meeting where we had about 50 people in attendance, and he came to explain what he was going to do at this establishment. And this is before the next liquor board meeting that was going to happen. So, strangely, he said everything that an adult cabaret is that he would not be doing, and that he was going to follow a Japanese gentleman's club type business plan that he thought we could take over in America, and that it kind of is like a gentleman club where a gentleman could dance with a young lady and be talking and dancing and drinking. And so it's not a strip club. That's what he kept saying. So then we heard here tonight that there is no dancing, his attorney said. And actually, I did look at the ordinance, and where it talks about dancing, this is going to be section 1062, 2. It shall be a violation of this chapter for a person who knowingly or intentionally in a sexually oriented business appears in a semi-nude condition unless the person is an employee who, while semi-nude, shall be at least 6 feet from any person or a customer, and on a stage at least 2 feet from the floor. And then it shall be a violation of this chapter for any person while semi-nude in a sexually oriented business to knowingly or intentionally receive any pay or gratuity directly from any person or customer, or for any patron or customer to knowingly or intentionally pay or give any gratuity directly to an employee while said employee is semi-nude in a sexually oriented business. Now, Gordon had told us that when asked, how do these girls get paid. And he says, when tips, they give him tips. So I guess what he said at the Miller Business Association meeting is now totally different, and he's going for what, I don't know, we all determined at the beginning of this whole thing was a strip club. So it all boils down to, we didn't like the first business, we certainly didn't like an adult cabaret business, and as it was said, this is the entrance from Chicago to our lakefront neighborhood. And this is not what we want them to see first. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else opposed to 1703? Seeing none, hearing none, that portion is closed. I would call the petitioners back to the podium. Ms. Hurd, what is the staff's recommendation? All right, Attorney, go ahead.
Yes. Nikhil Winfrey, Corporation Counsel for the City of Gary. I would like to submit for the board's consideration documents showing the negative secondary effects of sexually oriented businesses in the city. I have studies and police reports that I would like to give to the board for consideration.
All right. Madam Corporate Counsel, do we have copies for all these, or just when we pass these?
Ms. Hurt, if you could give the copies.
Okay. Okay.
Make copies of it.
All right.
I just see it.
Okay. As you can see, we a lot of questions about this business operation. Ms. Hurt, did the staff have a recommendation, or are we up for refer for this for the consideration?
Based upon what I've heard and the concerns that our board members have, they're going to need some additional time to study this a little bit more carefully so that they can have a clearer understanding and make the right decision. So I recommend that we take this under advisement to our next meeting, which is scheduled for March the 14th.
Thank you, Ms. Hurt. Staff recommendations as we defer and take this matter under advisement. Can I get a motion from the board?
So moved.
We move to saying that we defer this item until our March
14th.
March 14th meeting. We will come back further knowledgeable of what this business will entail, and then we will make a final decision, hopefully, at that meeting. All in favor? Roll call, Ms. Hurt.
Kevin Brown?
Yes.
Chester Jones?
Yes.
William Cook?
Yes.
The vote is 3-0.
Thank you, Ms. Hurt. As you can see, Representative Earl, we will come back on our next board meeting for a further understanding of your business and hopefully render a final decision on it by the BZA.
Is that at 3 o'clock as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your time.
All right. If there is, I think that was the last item on the agenda. That being the last item on the agenda, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
So moved and second. The BZA meeting for February 14th, is now adjourned.